28th of September 1997, Gordon Brown made the monumental decision to make the Bank of England independent from government activity and government intervention. Up until then, the monetarist ideals of Margaret Thatcher had been to bring the Bank of England into government thinking. Sean Corrigan joined us now from Cantillon Consulting with more on where we may be if we were still in a situation where the Bank of England was still part of government. Are we better off for having it independent?
Well, theoretically, it's probably not a bad idea to separate the monetary institution from the fiscal, but of course the monetary institution shouldn't then be very activist. It should be a night watchman, it should be the goal, last line of defence, whatever metaphor you want to use. So in making that separation, the original idea was to prevent governments from being able to print money and easily monetize it and delivering chronic inflation to the world from the experience of the 70s and the 80s. But of course today now we've morphed into a situation where this independent bank, which is more independent de jure by law than de facto, because they're still servants of the political system in which they operate, they've now become the go-to agency to do everything. They solve all the problems. A stroke of the pen and money is put here, there or everywhere. There's no problem that can't be solved with the printing press. This is the new attitude, and in fact therefore government discipline has eroded in other areas. I mean, we're 8-9 years into a recovery in the UK, and yes, the deficit is not anywhere near as bad as it was at the peak, but it's still hundreds of billions, over £100 billion a year, and the debt level still keeps mounting inexorably faster than the economic growth underpinning it. That wouldn't happen if Mr. Carney in the new Bank of England wasn't serving the interests of the people in politics quite so strongly. So independence, good idea in principle, but the independence should be an independence to do very little. It's become an independence to do everything that can be moved, particularly since you don't have to go through Parliament, you don't have a democratic vote, you don't have to haggle in committee. The bank meets every 6 weeks and it can do whatever it likes. And it's moved its remit, of course, not just from guaranteeing money or the balance of payments or the gold standard or whatever it was supposed to do in the old days. It's now involved in financial regulation, in stability and macroprudential. I mean, Mr. Carney's even now trying to use the Bank of England to decide whether or not we burn any carbon dioxide. I mean, we've had mission creep in spades.
So that is, they've gone beyond their original remit. That's what you're saying.
And it's going to be very hard to put them back in the box. I mean, the world now depends on what Mr. Carney, Signor Draghi, Madam Yellen, Kuroda-san, whoever it is, they get up and speak, and the whole world waits for this one man, this one woman, to have an opinion over what the tens and hundreds of millions of the rest of us should be doing with our lives. And the politicians have devolved responsibility because it's too easy for them. They're not facing any real constraints because money is so easy, because the central bank is so supportive. So it's now become a baleful influence, I would argue.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Sean. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Sean Corrigan from Cantillon Consulting. 20 years on from the Bank of England independence.